Welcome everyone to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you're here. Welcome Libra Rising, Libra Moon, Libra Sun. Welcome to your full moon forecast for the Libra full moon on April 16th, 2022. So if you are interested in other signs forecast, if you're interested in continuing to get these forecasts for your sign beyond this full moon, you can consider subscribing through Subscribestar in the link in the description box below. So Libra, without further ado, let's get right into your full moon forecast. We're going to be looking at the main astrological themes between this full moon on the 16th, leading up to our next new moon, which is the 30th of April. It is in Taurus and it's a partial solar eclipse. So we are finishing out we are reaching the end of the journey outside of the eclipse portal, right? There's a lot of themes that are going to come to an end, and we're about to open a door into the actual wormhole itself. And during the eclipse cycle, or the season, right, between the new moon and the full moon, we'll be walking through that tunnel. But in the meantime, we are really wrapping up a lot of themes and coming to a culmination point with this new moon in Aries about how to transcend the polarity. And for you, Libra, very much how to emotionally transcend your own internalized polarity. How do you find a transcendent realization that is above the polarity? Now, for Libra, this is not exactly easy, because you are by nature functioning on a system of polarization, of balance, of that polarization. So this new moon that we started with in Aries with Chiron involved was about aligning with an image of cosmic or natural order when it comes to relationships, right? And growing in accordance to that imagery. And there's been pitfalls all along the way, of course, with Chiron involved, and this full moon is the culmination of all of that development so far. What has worked? What needs to go? What needs to be cleansed? What needs to be purified? It's not often, once a month, that we get full illumination of what is otherwise the darkness within us. That is not a visual place. It is based on feeling, but we will have a really strong feeling that is illuminated by our identity, expression, sustainment, which is the sun in Aries. And so things may not have developed within you in the way that you had originally visualized or hoped for. But that's the thing. There's really never a lost opportunity if you see that the failures or the tests or the challenges that come about when you initiate something are really part of challenging the integrity and coherence of whatever it is that you were trying to create in the first place. So when you're able to find that space above the polarization in your own emotional self, in your own emotional body, especially talking about the first house here with the moon in your first house, then when you find your sustainment in relationship or in relationship to the world, and you're feeling challenged, you're maybe expressing yourself through that challenge, or at least identifying with this lost opportunity that you get to go after again, right? With your imagination, a sense of faith in some ways. It will highlight within you and your emotional sensitivity to yourself, your own emotional body, that space in which you transcend the polarization within yourself, and you find this higher knowing, which is going to be something that you want to remember and take with you, because it's not so much aligning with the ideal image as much as it is aligning with the feeling. With the feeling of being free, with the feeling of transcending the normal human problems, seeing them from a much wider perspective, and seeing yourself, and you yourself being the type of person that can transcend even your own polarization. So full moon is going to show you a lot about yourself, Libra. And then the 18th, And even all through the weekend is covered in the Catalyst Astrology Report that I've already posted. We did a live stream this morning, and so it'll be linked in the description box below for you. And it's also listed on Telegram if you're on Telegram as well. So that goes into the weekend because I want to just cover here these general themes finishing out this cycle. So we talked about Mercury and Uranus being in a conjunction. We have the Sun in your 7th house that's going to square Pluto. In fact, Pluto is in a T-square to this full moon. So we also know that the really deep transformational work that's been going on in Capricorn has for you been in the intimate life, right? Your home and family and where you feel emotionally safe. I mean, that's a very difficult place to have a Pluto transit, especially in Capricorn, which represents, you know, the safety and security of the institutional establishment. And it's very paternal, and again, ruled by Saturn and even Pluto. You know, Pluto even is... or I should say, even the realm of the materium, which Capricorn represents, the establishment, even that is subject to the influence of Pluto, right? It has the final word here in the materium of the, you know, energy is not created or destroyed in this universe. It is repurposed. And that is exactly what Pluto does through death and rebirth. And so that's where you feel that home and family connection has been going through its overhaul and transformation for years now. So having this square to this full moon along the axis of who you are, it's just going to bring this right back up to the surface. So, and it's okay because there's a lot of Arcturian nature here with the moon conjunct Arcturus, right? Within 2 to 3 degrees of Arcturus, the Andromeda galaxy in a direct conjunction with the sun at this full moon. So freedom, like true freedom and true independence and liberty and being free is about being truly in harmony with the universe. And you will feel that harmony, I sense, within yourself at this full moon based on your identification with yourself in your relationships, right? And it's going to be what's going on at the home and family level for you, right? Where your power is coming from and how that's changing is going to be kind of the release of this tension, which is a Pleiadian marking right here. It's the crystalline grid of the planet, 27 to 28 degrees, 26, 27 degrees of Capricorn. So Libra, there's a lot of, you know, pretty fundamental changes happening for you. And it's this 8th house where the North Node is, where Uranus is, where Mercury is. So it's going to meet Uranus on the 18th. It's going to meet the North Node while... and there'll be other things going on, I'll show you, and then is going to dip into its home territory of Gemini, station retrograde, and come back. So there's going to be lots of conversations with Pluto at the end of Capricorn. Pluto's actually going to station retrograde right before the next new moon, which is a partial solar eclipse in Taurus. That's going to be on the 30th. So that's, it's the 8th house again, and the 8th and 2nd house of resources that is going to be impacted by the next eclipse cycle. So again, paying attention to the ways that you as a subjective persona and who you are and identity is being impacted right now is important because it goes directly into, it has an impact on what comes out of these 2nd and 8th houses. But you know, there's big awakenings coming, Mercury and Uranus, real big awakenings, like the emergence of, you know, the Kraken out of the out of the ocean, right? And the collective consciousness coming right to our individual knowing with Mercury. So there's a big, it could be rude, and for Libra, it's going to be in power dynamics. It's going to be in shared resources. It's going to be in possibly trusting the natural progression, but becoming very aware in that moment of, you know, the natural emergence of resources and intrinsic value and worth. So, and this is the area of your soul's evolution, is in this area. So this covers everything from like your business, you know, the money that you make off of like a business venture, any return on investment. You know, this is definitely the house of death and rebirth, right? Sexual energy, and all of the power dynamics of relationships. That's a resource. The ritual, any type of ritual binding, the resource is experienced in the 8th house. This is why it's the occult. This is why it's hidden, the realm of subconscious. So this covers a lot of areas, but the idea is that it's the resource-oriented axis that it represents. And so big awakenings here, right? With Mercury, and with Mercury specifically, not only meeting Uranus, meeting the North Node, like really getting a mental and cognitive sense of, you know, your awakening and your evolution when it comes to power, when it comes to power dynamics, when it comes to return on investments, shared resources, right? Lots of awareness and mental activity directed towards sharing of these resources, what it actually consists of, like having an objective and rational, logical perspective with Mercury as well. But it's going to be the perspective that's gained when Mercury comes into a direct trine. And when you realize, Libra, in that moment, that it is what happens in this area of your feelings, your sensitivity, your inner self, that has a direct impact on the quality of energy and power that's generated in your relationships. That is what you are offering, is what is characterized here in your sense of self-esteem and your inner and personal and private life, right? This is the Cancer house. And so perspective is going to be a theme for many months in this exact area for you. So the first of it is going to be Mercury reaching that degree and trining Pluto. So let's look ahead. Let's look ahead to the next week. So this is the full moon. We talked about Mercury and Uranus together in your 8th house. We have Venus, your chart ruler, and your planetary ruler as a Libra person. She's in Pisces now, and she is, you know, at the very least, your sense of who you are is able to be more intact as you are going into this space of complete dissolution into a process of rebuilding yourself, right? The 6th house is always a crisis house. So now you have Mars here that's ready to act on this somehow, right? Whatever it is, it's giving you courage. It's giving you a sense of fearlessness. It's giving you a work ethic in some ways, right? It's giving you output and energy to put towards this process of like making real change in yourself. And Venus allows you to be sensitive to who you are as a Libra, right? Where is your balance? Where is the harmony? What is beautiful? What's meaningful to you, but also allowing you to let the boundaries open just a little bit so that you can be inspired. Maybe you can find a transcendent reason for this surrender, right? That the meaning of it is more than what seems to be happening, right? This is part of the Piscean, like releasing into the flow. And Neptune and Jupiter in this conjunction that just happened, this was a blessing, right? It may not be totally apparent right away, but it definitely came to a peak or a climax in terms of this this cosmic meaning, and this cosmic meaning for what you are doing with yourself and the work on yourself. So we definitely want to follow Venus, but Venus is going to, as you can see, even at the time of this full moon, is going to be in a sextile to Mercury, right? That is, you know, the path is narrow here. It is a spiritual path. You can't afford to be led astray here, which is very difficult with Venus in Pisces, because that's all she wants to do is kind of just go into the fantasy realm, which is, again, really great for inspiration, really great to bring the transcendental into your everyday reality. But it's also really good to keep a sense of who you are intact as a Libra person, and where your boundaries are there as well, and what's realistic and what's able to be materially balanced, and how you can materially find harmony in order to, within yourself, in order to do this work. Oh, wow. So sextile to Mercury, and also sextile to Uranus, right? It's an opportunity and an investment into these areas that are naturally emerging from the depth in terms of resources. I think that for Libra, ultimately, you're going to find that when you put things into place a lot sooner and you have this sense of who you are and the world around you kind of on lockdown, you'll find that and you do, right? This is part of this full moon. And with the South Node in Scorpio, it's a natural emergence. And so there's been a hastiness, of course. And with Mars coming into Pisces, now it's gone from being kind of detached from the acting for the greater good to becoming completely immersed in the feels of it. And that has people acting in totally different ways and being very, a lot of martyrdom, a lot of this spiritual warrior nature. But for you, you can direct it towards yourself, which is a great thing that Mars would prefer to do anyway. You just don't want to get caught or get lost in the propaganda of or the ocean of who you are and not be able to apply it to something material. So again, the Libra aspect of you is very important to keep you here in the 6th house without totally losing yourself. I think that again, it's a blessing, right? And so there may be some instances here that are not, that totally dissolve you, right? That you find yourself just kind of giving in. And Mars is here now to be like, no, I'm not going to let you do that. Just be mindful of what you're acting on and be sensitive to your own sense of balance, right? That their polarization is something you transcend, you don't necessarily bypass. And that's something you'll have to use yourself as like a great way to measure. And like I said, Venus in your 6th house, it'll really help here to keep you from totally just giving into, just giving yourself over in a way that doesn't have a goal in mind. But like I said, this was a blessing. So let's look at the week ahead. And specifically, we're going to look at our 3rd quarter moon, because of course that's always where we get our first challenge. So Mercury is going to be now in conjunction with the North Node. And again, when you have Mercury here in this 8th house, I mean, you just have a much more patterned and logical and empirical approach to a very dark, deep abyss-like realm of the 8th house. Even if it's under the soil, it's still dark and not really a lot of light, and it's very fixed. But Mercury is able to move into these areas fairly easily and able to move back out of them because it's the realm of consciousness. It's light, but it's very difficult for light to penetrate very deeply into the soil. It has to express itself maybe as a different phase, right? Through heat and stuff like that. So I think really though, what this represents is much more of a mental focus on what is generating in value for you, and not just you, but who you're in relationship with. You'll just have a lot more awareness of where we're going and putting your thoughts and your mental energy towards that. But what you're going to find is that the sun is now in Taurus as well, and is going to be in a 3rd quarter square with our 3rd quarter moon in Aquarius. And so there may now be at this point where the pot at the gold at the end of the rainbow, you may be really identifying with it, really being this will to sacrifice, especially the sun moving into the 8th house like this, really giving yourself, investing your voice. But speaking of your voice and yourself and your expression, this moon in the 5th house, which represents the area of your creative expression and your voice, is like, all right, but what are you doing? Right? And it's not even what you're doing. Where is your consciousness really situated? Is it fully in this experience of just being open and ready for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? And this is really sustaining you at this point. The challenge to your consciousness is the moon in Aquarius. It's like, hey, you actually have to use this energy, right? You actually have to use it in a way that helps other people, right? What's the point of having your Kundalini rise and move through your body body and heal you if you don't actually help other people to do the same. So it's going to be, it's going to challenge you, Libra, into like, what are you doing with that energy, right? Are you just going to be, focused entirely on, this conceptual idea of linking the material and the spiritual and the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? Or are you going to at least lean into the discomfort of this, like, voice in the back of your mind or your intuition that's like, what are you actually doing with this energy? What are you doing with this solar energy? Are you actually helping other people with it? Are you actually making use of it? Because this doesn't generate anything of value without your full passion engaged. And that's what the fifth house is. And as much as Saturn is that wet blanket, or maybe like the tuner, right, that you have to tune your voice to, it is, I assure you, making it very clear your unique voice so that you condition it, that you find strength in it. And that tuner is not budging an inch, right? You have to align with it, not the other way around. And part of that, again, is you have to actually use your spiritual energy, and you have a responsibility to do so. So, Libra, you're probably going to be like, no, I just kind of want to like be in the experience of, and in the depth of it, and really feel the power of the natural world and natural emergence. And I think that's great. This is going to be a little bit of a nag right here, especially with Mercury that's really focused on where you are going. But where you're going does have, it's impacted directly by how you feel and your devotion to yourself and your creative expression. So, and these are both impacted by Pluto and Saturn right now. So when we get to the new moon on the 30th, Libra, let's see here. Like I said, the new moon is going to be in Taurus, so there's going to be an eclipse. And like I talked about, this is going to be walking through the wormhole. So the last solar eclipse is going to clear up. The new solar eclipse is going to cross over this point, right? It's kind of like in the figure 8 where we come to that juncture. This is where we're going to be. And so, again, natural cultivation. I think what we're going to find here, Libra, is because it's an eclipse and because it is going to be elongated for a period of time for about 6 months, you're going to find that the natural cultivation, or the cultivation of our own ego consciousness, the garden of our mind, right? I have a feeling that over the next couple of months, there's going to be some frustration that things, again, are not going to, grow in the way that they want, or that at the speed that we want. But again, this North Node is a really clear reminder that time is truly the only currency of value in this material world, and to realize that it has to come about on its own cycle. You can't force it. But if you don't take care of the medium of growth by watering the flower bed and by conditioning it and cultivating it, we are, you know what I mean? You get what you get. And so there's a passivity, I feel like, that could easily be translated from this full moon of like, oh, I'm just transcending the whole thing, right? I can feel within myself my ability to transcend all of these human problems and to see the much bigger meaning in every single thing that happens. What that may end up doing, though, Libra, is kind of taking a lot of the personal responsibility out of the actual, your actions and behaviors as an individual, to create an environment that you can actually get, to transcend in the first place. And this is a big part of what's happening for you in Pisces, right? Venus and Neptune are going to meet. Venus and Jupiter are going to meet. In fact, Venus and Jupiter are conjunct at 28 degrees Pisces at this eclipse on the 30th. So this is everything you need. This is another very incredible blessing. This is an expansion. I mean, it doesn't get any better than the two benefics conjunct at 28 degrees Pisces. This is abundance at its most full, right? It's complete satiation and ready to come back, ready to release that into a new cycle of growth and creation. So everything you need is within you. I mean, it will be it'll be expanded upon. It'll have incredible amount of meaning. It'll be embodied. It'll be within, you know, the function of what you're doing with yourself and your own reconstitution. And it's important to remember that, because we're going to want to come back to that over the next 6 months as we're continuing to water the garden, and we're like, where the hell are my flowers, right? That's just going to be the nature of the eclipse season, and to not give up on our participation in the eclipse or in the cycle of growth just because it's not moving along in the way that we think it should. So Libra, I think that I'm looking to see if there's anything else that's really standing out in terms of transits, but you can see the general theme here is moving from the bottom of your chart and starting to move into the top of your chart, which is in fact a big part of how Libra gets along in the world, is by having a relationship with society in order to balance themselves from, you know, with. And so, but there's been a lot of work that's been happening here at these really deep levels of how you feel, you know, who you are, how you craft yourself, how you perfect your own form, as you're now coming into new revelations, new cycles of identity and power, especially, and certainly soon belief systems and established creation is going to be down the line. So Libra, thank you for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. If you're interested in a personal reading, energy work to support your process, the Starseed Ministry, Starseed Fellowship, any of these things, they're all in the description box below. Thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourself and take care of each other as best you can. I know you will do that, Libra, usually by taking care of yourself. And I'll see you on the next forecast, okay? Have a great full moon. Happy Easter, and I'll see you next time.